Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. On today's video we're talking all about the Witchcraft books that are releasing in January 2025. Now I actually scripted this video back in mid-December with the full intention of filming it just after Christmas, and you might be able to tell in my voice, I got ill just after Christmas and I've basically been coughing for 2 solid weeks. I still sound pretty rough, but trust me, a couple days ago even, I sounded way worse. But I spent hours scripting this video and I'll be damned if I let that go to waste because it took me way too long to do this. And I love talking about the new Witchcraft books. I know that many of you enjoy them too, so I'm really sorry that this is late. I hope that you enjoy it anyway, and I'm really sorry if I start sounding rougher and rougher as this video goes on. So we are going to persevere because I want to talk about some of these books. Some of them look really good, and we're going to get started on the 2nd of January. So this is called The Little Book of Crystal Healing, and it is an essential beginner's guide to enhancing your day-to-day life with the help of crystal healing. From overcoming anxiety and soothing unregulated emotions to remedying physical symptoms such as headaches and insomnia, this little book draws on the unique healing energy of crystals to bring you mental and physical health benefits. Not to worry if you don't know the difference between jade and moonstone, this practical pocket-sized handbook breaks down the benefits and properties of each crystal, from providing healing remedies and clear instructions on how to harness each crystal's individual power, to suggesting the perfect pairing for the good flow of vibrations. This book will help you focus your energy and balance your chakras to feel in harmony with your mind, body, and soul. This one I wanted to focus a little bit more on than some of the others in this video, mostly because I feel the need to put a caveat here of crystals, witchcraft, they should not be used as a substitute for medical assistance. And so while myself, along with many other people, will use crystals and witchcraft alongside modern medicine, I do want to make it clear that it should be used alongside rather than as a substitute to, because if you were to replace modern medicine, taking medication, seeking help with crystals, you might find that your condition gets worse. So do make sure that you are checking with your primary care, whoever that is, whether that is a GP, whether that is a nurse, whoever it might be, to make sure that you are physically doing all that you can and you are medically doing all that you can so that you can then work magically and with crystals alongside it. But that is coming out on the 2nd of January in both the US and the UK. We then have The Little Book of Manifesting. This is also coming out on the 2nd of January in the UK and US. And once again, it's by the same publishers, so it's a similar guide. It's the idea of daily affirmations and intentions, setting scenarios to manifest your dreams and goals. It's another one of these pocket books. It might not be super interesting to people who are a little bit more advanced in their practice, but if someone is just getting started, it may well be a more accessible option than some of the harder to access, more limited run published books. The next book, however, does look really interesting to me. This one is all about the fairies. This is called Brownies and Bogles, a compendium of enchanting fairy lore. It's coming out on January 7th in the US. It's not releasing anywhere else just yet. This is described as being over 100 years since its original publication. Brownies and Bogles by Louise Imogen Guiney is now republished as a wonderful, easy-to-follow guidebook to the Fae. American essayist and poet Louise Imogen Guiney put together a fantastic poetic book dedicated to the happenings of the fair folk. Now published for a modern audience, it is a timeless treasure you didn't realize was missing from your library. Contained within are stories and anecdotes regarding the lives of the little people, offering insight into the interests and hobbies of those unseen. This one is definitely one that I am tempted to get. You know what I'm like with my fairy lore and fairy witchcraft. I really enjoy learning more about it, and so this one does look really good to me. Next up, we have another one about crystals. This is Crystals for Psychic Self-Defense, 145 gemstones for banishing, binding, and magical protection. This is coming out on the 7th of January in the USA only. It is yet to release elsewhere. This book presents magical techniques with crystals for warding off harmful energies, binding and curse breaking, including crystal grids, amulets, spells, and rituals. It explains how to discern the symptoms of a psychic attack and offers multiple methods for cleansing your energy field and your crystals. It includes an in-depth directory of 145 of the most powerful and effective crystals and gemstones for protection, banishing, and recovery from psychic attacks. In the realm of protection, the author explores passive approaches such as psychic shields, jewellery and carrying gemstones, as well as more active practices such as spells, meditations and rituals. He shares magical techniques for warding your home, vehicle and workspace, and for counteracting geopathic stress, EMF pollution, and ill-wishing from those around you. To combat and neutralise psychic attack, he examines the necessary yet challenging territory of binding, banishing, reversal, curse-breaking, and exorcism, sharing crystal spells, grid layouts, and rituals for spirit release. He also looks at special techniques aimed at strengthening the boundaries for empaths and highly sensitive people. So this one looks interesting. I will say that the whole idea of EMF pollution and protection and using crystals for that tends to set off red flags for me in my brain. That doesn't necessarily apply for everyone, but I have read a lot of works that have some questionable, not really accurate information in them that do focus on this aspect of crystal magic, so just bear that in mind. I have not read any of the books in this video, so this is not me saying that this book is not good or that the author is not good. It's just something to bear in mind. It's something that I look out for in books when I'm considering buying them. But this one could be good if you do want protection magic with a heavy focus on crystals. So if you're not really interested in crystal witchcraft, this one isn't going to be for you. But if crystals really are a central component to your magic, maybe this one could be worth a look. We then have At the Borders of Wondrous and Magical, Nature Spirits, Shapeshifters, and the Undead in the Never-Ending Middle Ages. This one looks so good to me. This one is definitely going on my I will try to get it in the future when I've read some of my extensive to be read pile. This one examines the stoic side of texts and tales from the Middle Ages, including the enduring presence of haunted areas and power places, and the roles of witches, house spirits, rune priests, shapeshifters, and the undead. It discusses the dividing lines between magic and deviltry, as well as the significance of grimoires, bells, blacksmiths, storm callers, and more. It serves as a guide to a still present magical and imaginal realm, pointing readers to the borderlands and liminal thresholds that enable access to the other world. This one looks so good to me. It covers all of this medieval mythology from around Europe, and I think it just looks fascinating. This one is definitely going to end up on my to be read pile, most definitely, and anyone who enjoys similar folklore heavy books will probably like this one too. We then have one that I spoke about in last month's video. This is Magic in Your Cup, A Witch's Guide to Sippable Spellcraft. This is out on the 8th of January in the UK. It has already been published in the US. Another one is The Words of the Witch, Writing and Speaking Your Magic. Once again, it's already been published in the US. It's coming out on the 8th of January in the UK. And then another one, as we can see, a lot of the books tend to come out in America first before being spread to worldwide releases. So do bear that in mind. If you see a book that is coming out in America in January, it's often coming out in February or March in the UK, and then often a little bit later further afield. And vice versa, if you see me talking about a book and you've never heard of it before, it's likely that it is coming out in the UK now, but it may well already have been released previously. And if that is the case, I will try to let you know where possible. But this is The Witch's Wardrobe, Sew Your Own Witchcore Wear. It is coming out on the 8th of January in the UK. It is already released in America. And then we have another one. This is The Art of Aromatherapy in Magic. It's coming out on the 8th of January in the UK. It's already released in America. If you want to know more about any of these four, they are available in last month's video. Now, this is one that is definitely very applicable for the January season. This is A Year and a Day of Everyday Magic, Witchify Your Life with a Daily Dose of Magic. This is coming out on the 8th of January in the US. It's not coming out elsewhere yet, but this is by Deborah Blake, a very, very well-known and well-respected author. Explore 366 quick activities that you can follow chronologically through the year or dip into as time allows. This is the follow-up to A Year and a Day of Everyday Witchcraft and includes spells, rituals, meditations, crafts, recipes, and journal prompts that you can enjoy anytime, anywhere. So you'll find ideas to design a labyrinth, carve intention into candles, build an ancestor altar, make a besom, grow a moon garden, fold paper aeroplane magic, wish with bubbles, chant to the goddess, and more. With daily inspirations, Deborah Blake offers activities for full moons, holidays, and other special occasions to explore your magic and expand your practice even during the busiest of times. Now, with this one, I'd probably probably say that this is most suited to the beginner, maybe someone who's been in their practice for less than a couple of years. I think by the time you get to like year 3, year 4, you've probably developed a style of practice and a range of celebrations that you enjoy carrying out. But if you are very new to your practice, so within a year, within a couple years, this kind of book could be incredibly useful for giving you inspiration, insight, for letting you know how other people choose to practice their craft, and then you can decide what it is that you feel comfortable and what it is that you don't. The next book is one that I am absolutely fascinated by. The story behind this book is just incredible. This is called The Confessions of Fiona, Mythology and Folklore of Faeries. It's coming out on January 14th in the US, with other release dates to come around the world. So this one is a really, really odd book, and it has an unusual backstory. So in 1893, the Scottish writer and mystic William Sharp began writing under the name of Fiona McLeon. I'm really sorry if that's the wrong pronunciation for this. I will put it on the screen anyway. If anyone knows how to pronounce it, do let me know. I do try my best, but I'm not very good at it. Fiona McLeod. The name Fiona didn't exist before this point in time, at least not in our world. For the next 12 years, Fiona wrote a large amount of information about her tradition, her belief system, mythology and deities, but they were not the mythology and deities of humans. They were actually the mythologies and deities of the fair folk, specifically the Sidhe. None of these myths, legends, gods and goddesses had been heard of before this point. So the question is, where did the information come from? Was this writer, William Sharp, simply making all of this information up? Or did it come from a legitimate fairy source? And this book, The Confessions of Fiona, is a new book detailing the beliefs, stories and tenets of the Sidhe as they were revealed by Fiona in these earlier works for these 12 years that this information was written down. And it sounds absolutely fascinating. And it's definitely one that I'm going to be looking at. The author of this book, Steve Blamiers, I'm really, really sorry, is presenting this information in this book, having studied the historic fairy tradition for 30 years. He presents a unique ritual system previously unknown, myths, legends, gods and goddesses, offering insight to the modern researcher of this fascinating non-human body of work. And this just sounds absolutely incredible, definitely going on my list. I can't resist this one. We then have Intention, Obsession, Rituals and Witchcraft for Every Season. So this is all about self-care rituals, DIY projects, embracing your inner witch and manifesting your dreams. It's coming out in the US only on January 14th with future releases to come. This is all about conjuring an intention-filled life with a practical guidebook of magical rituals for every season of the zodiac. This is actually by an author called Erica Feldman, who is the founder of the Salem-based store House Witch, which I think is really interesting that we have people that are very prominent in the community writing books on the subject. I always love it when that happens. So this book is organised by the seasons of the zodiac from Aries to Pisces and will showcase the archetypal powers of each season and teach you how to create a ritual regimen that you can honour all year long. It includes DIY projects and spells such as planting a pleasure garden for the indulgent Taurus season, to creating a DIY shower salt scrub for watery Cancer season, mixing up magical sun tea recipes to celebrate the sun in Leo, and throwing a super organised dinner party for a type A Virgo season. This book will empower you to craft your intention, defy oppressive structures like capitalism, patriarchy and white supremacy, and connect deeply with the energies of the universe. Just let each page awaken your intuition and empower you to manifest your most intentional life. So this one does look pretty interesting for anyone who is interested in adding the astrological aspect into witchcraft, which I know that many of you do enjoy doing, so this one could very much be worth looking into. We then have Spells for the Apocalypse, Practical Magic for Turbulent Times. Again, this is coming out on January 14th in the USA only, with future dates to come. An empowering ritual guide for living through turbulent times from a trauma recovery practitioner and practicing witch. Witchcraft is a practice rooted in wellness and healing. It has the capacity to transform your life. This spellbook and ritual guide offers practical ways to incorporate magic into your daily life and support your emotional well-being. Carmen's toolkit is part magic, part self-help, with the goal of developing strategies for stress management, self-regulation, and more. Spells for the Apocalypse will teach readers how to counteract unconscious behaviour patterns, re-establish stability and restore resilience during periods of personal upheaval through a series of straightforward spells and 5-minute rituals. Whether you are new to witchcraft or an experienced practitioner, this beautifully illustrated treasure trove of practical magic is the key to healing and growing through the restorative power of witchcraft. So this one isn't necessarily going to be for everyone, but some people, especially those who enjoy the shadow work aspect of it, could get something out of this, definitely. We then have one that might divide the community, but I'm going to mention it anyway because it's a new release. This is the Pocket Love Spells Modern Magic to Bring Love into Your Life. This is coming out on the 23rd of January in the UK, with future releases still to come. Whether you're looking for a soulmate, seeking attention from an unrequited love, desiring a long-lost love to return, or searching for the passion of a lifetime, here are over 30 magic spells and rituals to bring love to your heart. Along with manifestations, incantations, binding spells and moon magic, you will learn the basics of witchcraft and how to work with crystals, candles, spell jars, love potions and talismans. There are feature pages on self-love to ensure that you turn that love inwards too. So this is one that's definitely not going to be for everyone. Now, I do think it's important for me to say that love magic is not just one thing. It's actually a very diverse style of practice, and the term love magic and love spells is essentially an umbrella term. It can be used to describe a spell or ritual that you conduct as a couple during a wedding ceremony or a hand fasting to magnify and amplify the love that you have between two people. It can be a self-love working that you do when you need a little bit of assistance to learn to love yourself. It can also be a working to attract in new potential partners or to make you feel comfortable using dating apps again if you've been single for a long time. It can also be the domination style workings that a lot of people tend to demonize. And while I understand that this topic causes a lot of divide and discourse within the community, it's important to remember that we can only really decide what we choose to practice for ourselves. I see a lot of people demanding, threatening, and being really, really horrible to other people who choose differently than they do. And I think with all of this, it's important to remember that there are many different cultures and cultural traditions, and we really can't dictate whether they choose or choose not to practice something. That's entirely based on them as an individual. So that's just something that I feel like we should bear in mind. Now, personally, I'm not going to be getting this book because for me, pocket guides don't really have a place within my library, my collection. I tend to prefer more in-depth books, but if you do just want to dip your toe into a subject, maybe you're curious to learn more, even if you don't want to practice it yourself, then pocket guides could be something to look into. They may also be cheaper than a more in-depth book on the subject, so that could also sway whether or not this is something you would want to look into or not. We then have another that I spoke about last month. This one looks so good. This is Mastering the Art of Ritual Magic. This is coming out on the 25th of January in the UK. It is already released in America. This is another by Frata Barbarous. It's all about the art of ritual magic, hence the name. And this ended up on my list last time of books that I was considering adding into my collection. It's still on my list this time because it does look that good. We then have A Witch's Book of Wisdom. This is coming out on the 25th of January in the UK only. It's already released in America, I believe. I think I've already spoken about this one, but I'm not entirely sure, so I will run over it really briefly. This is a republication by Patricia Telesco. Many of her books have been republished in the last few months. You'll likely notice this name coming up a lot. This book harkens back to a time where the solution to life's problems could be discovered by having a chat with the local wise person. These folks were undoubtedly skilled in the magical arts and knew just what to prescribe for their client, depending on whatever obstacle they happened to face at any given time. In the modern era, the proverbial village has grown into a global community, leaving many curious witches to their own devices when it comes to finding the magical solution to a problem. Learn magical techniques to overcome fear and find lost items, discover the magic of pathworking and learn how to work with puppets, explore the magic of knots and sneak away to the kitchen for a bit of kitchen witchery, step back in time and allow the simple ways of magic to unfold in your everyday life. This one does look really interesting. I'm not sure whether I'm going to add it into my collection though. I have heard some mixed things about not even just the republication of these books, but actually the originals. So as with all of the books on these lists, make sure that you do your research on them. You don't need to be having a massive library to be a successful magical practitioner. You do not need to be buying every single book under the sun. You just don't. Not all books are going to be good, and you don't have to buy books straight away. A lot of the books that are really popular have been popular for the last 20 years, and that's because they're really good. A good book is going to stay relevant for a really long time. And so if books like this have been published before, check out the reviews on the original publishing of that book. Check out the author, check out what people have to say about it. Is it making into recommended reading lists? Who is making the recommended reading list? That's the other thing I feel like I should point out. Because if a recommended reading list only contains TikTok-friendly books, then all of the books are going to be very TikTok friendly. Whereas if someone is only recommending Wicca-based book, or the majority of the books that they're recommending are Wiccan-based books, you can likely expect that the rest of the books on that list are also going to be Wiccan-based. That's not to say that either of these book lists are not going to be good. It's just to bear in mind that what people consider to be a good book or a bad book is very much going to depend on their own practice. So if someone is, say, a beginner, then their idea of a good book is going to be through the lens of their beginner craft. Just as if someone is Wiccan or if someone is a traditional witch, what they consider to be a good book is going to be through the lens of their tradition too. So just bear that in mind. Check out what kind of reading lists books are on. Do you have a book that isn't outwardly talking about Wicca, but it's found only on Wiccan reading lists? That might be something to consider. All of these things can be really, really useful in vetting a book to decide whether or not it's something you want to read or whether it's something you want to skip. Next, we have one I'm definitely going to get. I have spoken about this one before. This is The Craft of Tubal Cain, Traditional Witchcraft and the Legend of Robert Cochrane. It's already released in America. It's coming out on the 25th of January in the UK. And another that we spoke about, this is Mexican Magic, Brujeria, Spells and Rituals for All Occasions. This is already out in America. It's coming out on the 28th of January in the UK. For anyone who maybe has ancestry, family from Mexico, who want to dive a little bit more into their background, their tradition, the mythology, folklore, legends, spells, I think that could be really, really interesting. And I love that we're seeing more of these books coming out that are regional specific to give people who maybe don't live where their family once lived a chance to learn a little bit more about their heritage traditions. I think that's really, really cool. We then have The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars, Spells, Rituals and Recipes for Making Magic with Animal Allies. This is coming out on the 28th of January in the US only, with future releases in the UK. Now this is by Madame Pamita. Now Madame Pamita is a YouTuber. She's had a channel on YouTube for a really, really long time. I watched her many, many years ago. She was really, really good. And this is her new book. So this is specifically animal familiars. And I want to make that really clear because for me in my practice, when I talk about familiars, I'm talking about spirit familiars. Whereas this is very specifically talking about animal familiars. So do bear that in mind. If spirit familiars are more your thing, this one isn't going to be for you. If animal familiars are more your thing, this is definitely going to be up your alley. Whether you are seeking to bring animal magic into your practice or simply want to bond with a furry or feathered friend in more meaningful ways, this guide will expand your magical practice and amplify your power with the help of an animal familiar. This is more than just black cats. Discover your personal animal familiar and open yourself to a new way of working alongside the animal kingdom in your magical practice. More than simple elements to be added to spells, animals are allies who can teach any witch about energy, life force, and different kinds of consciousness. For centuries, witches have been linked with familiars such as black cats. However, the world of animal familiars is not limited to felines. Dogs, birds, rodents, reptiles, and even guppies in your aquarium can be your special companions and magical co-creators. And familiars are not just limited to the pets that we live with. Animals in the wild can also enhance our magic and teach us valuable spiritual lessons. In this comprehensive book, you'll learn how to identify an animal familiar and invite them into your witchcraft practice. You'll find spells to attract, protect, and bond with your familiar. You'll learn magical ways to calm your familiar and even rituals to help your familiar transition at the end of their life. You'll access ways to talk to your familiar and build psychic links to help you understand them. You'll discover your ways to invite your familiar to participate in magical rituals, to exchange spiritual energy, and even learn how to shapeshift into an animal form. So even if you're not necessarily interested in the familiar side of it, but you just want to learn about more animal-based witchcraft, that one does sound pretty good, and it might actually end up on my list because while I personally don't use animal familiars, I do get a lot of questions about it, so I might end up getting it just for further research. We then have storytelling for magic, bardic skills and ritual craft for witches and pagans. This is coming out on the 28th of January in the UK with future releases to come. In your hands are the keys to bringing the gifts of the ancient magic weavers, the storytellers, into your life. The bards of old wove magic with their words. Through myth and legend, history and inspiration, they shaped the world around them. Just like them, you can connect with the magic of storytelling to create powerful change. Join professional performer, ritualist, bard and witch Halo Quinn to discover how to use your voice in magic, how to unravel the secrets of stories, how to craft your own rituals to bring the power of myths and folk tales into your life, and how to find, learn and tell stories to enchant the world, both inside and outside the circle. So yeah, it's probably not one I'm going to get, but it does look really interesting. We then have another by Pagan Portals. They seem to be releasing a lot of books recently. I think in the last couple of months we've had at least 3, maybe even more books coming out by Pagan Portals. This one is called Modron, Meeting the Celtic Mother Goddess. It's coming out in the UK on the 28th of January, as with all of them with future dates to come. In the flow of healing waters and the urgent cry of the earth, we hear the voice of the Celtic mother goddess Modron, also known as Matrona, a goddess of fertility, abundance and healing, but also of grief and loss and ancestral wisdom. She is still present, although hidden in today's world. We find her myths in the tales of the Mabinogi, the Welsh triads and the modern tales of Avalon, and her image and veneration in the ancient regions of Celtic Gaul, where she first emerged as a river goddess. We can trace echoes of her in ancient Indo-European texts, and possibly even further back to the agricultural myths of the Neolithic. She is even present in the stars. Modron, Meeting the Celtic Mother Goddess, takes a deep dive into the often overlooked goddess who has inspired our modern myths. Combining solid academic research with suggestions for personal practice and ritual, from a modern-day scholar of goddess veneration, Modron is emerging from the depths. Will you answer her call? Now, you know what I always say about Pagan Portals books. They're very expensive for the size of them. They're usually very, very small. But this one actually looks really, really good, and I'm actually really tempted to get it because I want to learn more. This is the kind of book that I love, this kind of part scholar, part practical. This is my vibe completely, and I might break my rule of never buying another Pagan Portals book just to get this one. And that's saying something, because I have a lot. I have one on Brigid, I have one on Hedge Witchcraft, I've got one on Kitchen Witchcraft, I've got one on Poppets. Every single time I've bought a Pagan Portals book, I have been kind of disappointed. I am willing to give it another go for this. So, I mean, do you like the look of this one? Let me know. We then have A Witch's Year, journey through the changing seasons in a constant process of unfolding and becoming. This is coming out on the 28th of January. I have forgotten to tell myself whether this is UK or America, so I'll have to let you know at the bottom of the screen. But this is a compendium of magic, lore, rituals, observances, spells, crafts, meditations, visualizations, and all manner of practices to bring you into a deeper relationship with all beings who share this world with us. Written by one of Britain's most well-respected and influential witches, and superbly illustrated, with every passing month you will discover how the great tide works through your magical life, about the gods and goddesses, the world of spirit, and how to live here in this new now. So yeah, it is... I don't want to say a generic book about the Wheel of the Year. I don't want to say that. But it is a book about the Wheel of the Year. It's essentially a way of attaching your magical practice to the changing of the seasons. Now, when I say that, I don't want to come across as being derogatory because I do not mean it in that way at all. What I mean is that if you've already got books like this in your collection, you've been an experienced practitioner for several years now, you already work with the Wheel of the Year and the changing of the seasons with your magical practice, I don't necessarily think this is going to add all that much into your magical practice. It could be an interesting read. It could be a book that you want to read because you really want to support Lavanna Morgan. That is completely valid and that is completely fine. I do, however, think that this is maybe a book that is more suited to those who are just getting started in their magical practice or who have yet to link their magical practice to the seasonal world. I think that this could be a really, really interesting book because there is a little section, like a little review by Ronald Hutton. Now, many of you will know my love for Ronald Hutton. He doesn't know that I exist. I just listen to every single talk he's ever done ever. But the fact that Ronald Hutton is saying that this is a good book, it's an excellent handbook, quote, an excellent handbook, is making me think that this could be really, really good for someone who doesn't already have a million books on this subject. But if you do, do check out some reviews, see if it's going to add anything into your practice, because otherwise you are just filling your bookcase with books that you are never going to need and you're never going to read. And I say that knowing that I am just as guilty. I am saying this, I am throwing stones in glass houses because I am so guilty of doing this and I'm trying really hard to get out of it. So just bear that in mind. Oh, and that was it. That's the end. I didn't realise that it went so quickly. I've not been filming for half as long as I thought I was going to. So those are all of the books that I could find that are coming out in January. Now, of course, some of these books have already been released elsewhere. Some of them are coming out elsewhere in the future, so do keep an eye out. If you ever want to know when a book is coming out in your area, if you type in the name of the book, release date, and then where you live, it should give you the date for release in your location. If you are an ebook reader or an audiobook listener, the ebooks and audiobooks are usually published on the same day as that book is released in America. It's generally a good rule of thumb. So if you do want to get a Kindle book or an ebook, you can usually get it a lot sooner than you can in the rest of the world in a physical copy. So just bear that in mind. So yeah, let me know what your favourite, most interesting books are from this month's video. I think my favourite ones are Pagan Portals. Never thought I'd say that. Pagan Portals Modron. I'm definitely saying that wrong, I just know it. As well as The Craft of Tubal-Cain, obviously. What else have we got that I liked the look of? Oh, The Confessions of Fiona. That one is definitely top of the list. Definitely going to be getting that and reading that. It's obviously not coming out in the UK for a while yet, but that one looks really, really good. As well as, if I can find where it was, Brownies and Bogles and At the Borders of the Wondrous and Magical. I know that I basically just gave you like every single book in this entire video, but there's a reason I do these videos, and it's because I love all of the books that come out. They look really interesting. But I would love to know which book in this video you like the look of. Like, is there one that stands out above any of the others where you go, oh, I have to read that? Do let me know. And thank you so much for sticking with me. If you've made it to the end, please put some book emojis in the comment section. I'm going to try to heart as many of them as I can. Hope that you had an amazing New Year. I hope that you had an amazing Christmas and Yuletide season. If you did like this video, please give it a like. It means a lot to me. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section. And if you do enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I try to post magical content every single week. And with that being said, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you have a marvelous magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Bye. Oh, I can't go that high apparently. I used to be able to go, bye. Oh, yeah, that's not working today. I have lost my entire upper register apparently. And I think my microphone doesn't like me very much either, because I don't think this audio is very loud at all. I'm going to have to like boost the audio to like ridiculous levels just so that you can hear me. Okay, I'm going to go have a lozenge and drink some water and try and edit this. And hopefully I don't sound like I'm dying. Maybe. We'll see. Because I literally just realised after filming this entire video, I have filmed this in 4K. I don't film in 4K because the files are huge. I filmed it in 4K. That's going to take like 4 days to export. What have I done? What have I done? I'm not filming this again. I'm not doing it. I usually film in HD. Shit. Okay. Wish me luck.